Hi people, this is another geolocation chart or geo chart, shortly abbreviated, I want to say, not literally abbreviated, but in a matter of speaking. In any case, it's an agricultural chart again, and guess what? It's time for USA, the United States of America, our beloved USA, 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 USA. Okay, enough of that. So yeah, let's dive right in. Yeah, I'm in a real geo mood lately. I'm just churning these guys out like they're nothing. These videos out like they're nothing. In any case, let's get down to it. The first house representing the US's, America's overall geographical layout and properties and whatnot. It's ruled by Scorpio. Stands for the fact that throughout the US there are a lot of marshes and a lot of wetlands, etc., with the included habitat. But at a more basic level, it stands for a land that is heavily fixated on generating resources, or better said, generating an income through resources. It's all about making money with the US. That's also why the second house is ruled by Sagittarius. The second house is empty, but it's ruled by Sagittarius. Stands for an abundance of financial resources. The third house, Pluto, is there in Aquarius. Stands for the fact that the US has a high population density by default. That's why it's Pluto, and that's why it's in Aquarius and in the third house. And it also stands for the fact that a good deal of resources are spent on American infrastructure to accommodate Americans. The fourth house, you've got Saturn there in Pisces, stands for the fact that America's weak point is the household in general, or its arguable weak point is the household. Just its weak point by default is the household, especially regarding fatherhood. A lot of fathers are, compared to other countries or compared to the rest of the world, a lot of fathers are absent from the household. So you've got a lot of single parent households. The fathers are absent. Saturn in this context would stand for a father in a household like setting. And Pisces stands for an absence or a lack of presence of his presence. And overall issues regarding the household. Think of domestic violence, think of mental health related issues, think of dysfunctionality. It just goes on. It's a notable issue with the US. Now, fifth house, which deals with entertainment. Oh, well, you look at that, and sports and everything. Everything you can do for fun, essentially, and romance. Look at that. Four planets there. Neptune, which is in Pisces at its strongest, which stands for the fact that there is a good deal of interest in occultism and specifically using occultism and esoteric endeavors overall, or esoteric techniques for the purposes of how should I put it, uncovering entertainment based or configuring entertainment based venues for personal profit, specifically for financial profit. Make no mistake about it. That's also why Neptune is positively aspected to the moon, which is also at its strongest in the 8th house, and it's also aspected the ascendant. That's why Neptune is also aspected the moon and the ascendant, and both of them form a grand trine. That's a giant triangle that you're seeing here. There are two giant triangles, but don't focus on the first one. Focus on this one, going from here to here. Boing, boing, boing. This is a tremendous, tremendous placement. Yeah, and the US is quite an occult country compared to the rest of the world. A lot of occult interest present. I think the US is the most, geographically speaking, or just overall, globally, the US is the country that has the most in the way of occult activity and whatnot. In any case, or anyways, moving on, you've got the Sun in Aries in the fifth house, stands for a lot of energy and aggression being thrown into anything you can do for fun, entertainment venues, you name it, bars, nightclubs, concerts, you name it, all kinds of sports, basketball, American football. It just goes on. A lot of energy being thrown at it. That's also what Jupiter says. Mercury represents men in general. The men are also primarily active here in the entertainment industry. But Mercury is afflicted, doesn't do well in fire signs. It simply indicates that the men do it out of impulse, not based on logic or rationale or thinking. And they carry that on over to the working floor in general. Okay, so that includes being exposed to rugged work, blue collar work. The majority of blue collar work in the US is done by men. Jobs that are hazardous to one's health, potentially hazardous, but there are still good career prospects there. That's why it is positively aspected to the midheaven, trine midheaven, and almost trine the part of fortune. Moving on, you've got the North Node there, which stands for the fact that the US should focus more on general stability in the working scene and earning more, and that the South Node indicates the opposite, that there already is an excess amount of focus on earning money through clandestine affairs that take place behind closed doors and in secret, so to speak. And you've got Venus, which represents women in general, 15 degrees in Taurus, in the sixth house, which stands for the fact that a lot of women focus on making money, and women are primarily driven by materialism, by wealth, and all the luxurious things wealth can buy, Gucci bags, Pradas, and everything. Um, and it's conjunct Uranus, which is afflicted in Taurus, which stands for the fact that the US also has a good deal of gold diggers, specifically women that are interested in how much money someone makes rather than the content of their character. A noticeable amount, not necessarily the majority, but a noticeable amount of women are like that, and that's also why both Venus and Uranus are conjunct the seventh house. Seventh house dealing with relationships is ruled by Taurus, which stands for the fact that the primary factor, the driving factor for associating with people is money, especially women. When they associate with someone at an intimate level, does not matter whether it's a marriage, whether it's a romantic relationship, or whether it is any kind of partnership. If it's only hooking up, if it's only this, if it's only that, it just goes on. Mars is in Cancer in the eighth house, which stands for men in general, stands for the fact that there's a lot of frustration for men when it specifically comes to dealing with matters regarding money, but specifically money that's acquired through third parties. Think of banks, think of payment processors, think of any financial institution that has a lot of money flowing through it. Um, Let me see for the rest. Also, a good deal of cases of fraud is also a reason for frustration. Um, you've got the moon there at its strongest, also in the eighth house, which stands for the fact that, again, like I already said, Venus, women are driven by materialism. That's why Venus is also well aspected. Both Venus and the moon are at their strongest, and they're sextile each other. And let me see, the moon in Cancer in the eighth house is also, it also stands for financial fluidity. Okay, most financial institutions in the U.S. they make bank. They really make bank, and they have good foreign partnerships. That's why the moon is also conjunct, a perfect conjunction with the ninth house, separated only by minutes, not by degrees. And last but not least, we have Lilith and the part of fortune, both conjunct each other, and the part of fortune is the conjunct midheaven in Leo. This is the US's strongest trait, arguably. The reason I say arguably is because the US has a couple of good things going for them. More than a few good things going for them. The only weaknesses are the impetuous and aggressive behavior, and sometimes excessive materialism equaling greed from the female populace. For the rest, the US is doing well, okay. Well, it's like balanced. And of course, the frustration from on the financial floor or regarding finances, financial disputes, litigations, and whatnot, especially considering affairs of a domestic nature. And think of anything that has to do with the domestic scene, real estate, food, culinary affairs, it just goes on. Yeah. Yeah, in any case, as I was going to say, the US, their strongest trait in general is being a continuous superpower, being one of the top three or top five in the world. So that's why some people say that the US is, even up to present date, still the best country in the world. I don't specifically agree with that statement. I love the US, but the US is number one in some fields, but not in every field. But overall, yeah, I can see where that statement comes from. But I wouldn't say like the number one country in the world. It's not a black and white matter, like never ending shades of gray. It all depends. It literally all depends in capital letters. What was I gonna say again? Um, yeah, that's what Lilith and the US stands. Lilith and thingy stands for. Lilith and the part of fortune stand for, and especially the part of fortune which is conjunct midheaven, like I said earlier. That's why it's in Leo. Leo stands for continuity, stability, strength, stable strength, a consistent, continuous stream of power. And the ninth house simply stands for foreign connections. It stands for its strength at an educational level regarding politics and whatnot. Essentially, everything on a how-to basis: how to do this, how to do that. Um, Not so much manufacturing, primarily simply in terms of what to do. Manufacturing is also good, but Pluto deals with that specifically. The manufacturing of things that Americans use in a day-to-day life, as well as people that it's exported to abroad. But yeah, this primarily stands for the fact that the US deals with, again, Lilith is here, stands also for occultism. It stands for hidden knowledge, essentially. Things that are of a hidden educational nature, of a higher nature. The Pot of Fortune just openly says that, listen, the US is number one overall compared to the rest of the world in terms of politics, in terms of education, especially university grade or university level education, esotericism overall, it just goes on. And also in sports affairs compared to the rest of the world. Think of sport like boxing, etc. Yeah, the US has the prestige of having all those so-called titles. So yeah, you can see for yourself. That's the US's strong suit. Again, I don't need to show any kind of proof or show any statistical data. Everybody watching this is familiar with the US, so we all know what the US is about. The US is all about entertainment, the land of opportunity, making money through these opportunities, specifically in these fields, as well as these fields. And yeah, that is all. See you guys later. Bye.